Hi Neil, we're back with Punch It
Jesse.
Played. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. So we are back with a new game today. Last week we played Age of Sigmar Champions. This is episode 2 of Punch It
Right.
Plays. We're changing some of our shot angles and some of the other stuff, trying some new
Yeah.
things. Let us know in the comments what you think. You know, if there's something you want to see different, we'll do our best to try to accommodate those things. But the goal is to kind of get better and better as we do this. And
We got some cool new equipment today, and hopefully it'll...
yep. And you'll have to
We're not
forgive
good.
us. Apparently the condo that I live in, they decided today is mowing day. Normally it's Mondays. So I guess they're behind schedule or something. We've had a lot of rain in the area. So you might hear a mower come in and out a couple of times today. I apologize for that. But we don't want to delay the shot or
Yeah,
try to reschedule or do anything like that. So, but we are playing Shards of Infinity today.
right, which is a favorite game of mine.
Okay. So tell me about it.
It's a deck builder. It's made by Stoneblade Entertainment,
Mhm.
who did Ascension,
Okay.
which is one of the quintessential deck builders. It was originally designed by a bunch of Pro Magic players.
Mhm.
And if we ever play Ascension on the stream, I'll go into that a little bit more. But this game is very similar to it. Obviously made by the same company. It has a lot of the same rules. It has all the basic deck builder rules.
Okay.
Where you start with a small set of cards that are okay, and then as throughout the game you acquire new cards to put in your deck and use those to accelerate,
Mhm.
acquiring more cards, and eventually you win the game. The win condition in this game, that's a little different than most deck builders, is player health total.
Yep.
There's some other kind of alternate wins that we'll talk about
Mhm.
as we set it up, but it all comes down to like killing your opponent.
Before they kill you, right?
Right.
Yep.
And that, to me, makes the game very interesting two-player,
Mhm.
where it really plays very competitively back and forth when we both have 50 life and
Right.
try to kill each other. I think that's a downside to the multiplayer aspect of this game,
Okay.
because player elimination is not...
It's not a great mechanism, right?
It's not universally liked as the way that you win in multiplayer.
Correct.
But we can talk about that later as
Yep.
well, the difference between two-player and multiplayer of this game. Overall, I think the game's great. I love Ascension. I love this game. It's very much the same. It
Sure.
has a few unique things, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about it. Of course, Stoneblade here says that the game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 plus, and 30 minutes. So they're saying it plays about 30 minutes. I'd agree with that. Most of the games seem to
Yeah,
play maybe even
absolutely.
faster than that.
In multiplayer, it's longer. In two-player, it's shorter. That's understandable.
Right.
If both players know the rules and how to play a deck builder, it plays really fast.
Okay. Yeah, so and we're very familiar with deck builders. I mean, they're a favorite genre of mine as well. I think you've played this game a little bit more than me. I've played it maybe 3 times. You've probably played it a lot more than that.
Yeah, only 10 or 15 times, I think.
Okay. Well, that's a fair amount.
Right,
Definitely
more than 3, but
gives you a leg up in understanding some of the cards, maybe a little bit better. But a couple of things that I want to point out, like I agree with you. Like when I went through the rules for this game, I got through like the first 5 pages of the rule book, and I was like, I know how to play this game. Like it was insert, deck builder. And
Yep.
for those people that are watching today that maybe don't know what a deck builder is, maybe you're new to the hobby. I want to just explain that just a little bit, because last week we played Age of Sigmar Champions, and that was what we would call a strategy. I would call a strategy card game or a trading card game, because it's
Right.
that was a random one. But there's other kinds of games in that genre called living card games or expandable card games, and in those games you build your deck before you come to the game. So like last week you didn't see us building the decks, but we built those prior to the episode, and then played the game, right? And this, because you start with basically 10 cards. We're going to be building our deck as we play. And so part of the strategy of that is picking cards from a resource row, which we'll lay out here in just a little bit and explain to everybody, and then trying to find synergies and combos that work together while you're essentially playing those cards on the fly.
yeah, absolutely. The game, like you said, the strategy card game is a different animal than the deck builder. Like
Yeah.
I said, this has some strategy card game elements, like the life total,
Mhm.
where it's less interactive. Where last week when we were playing Sigmar is not an extremely interactive game, but our cards do things like my cards do things to your cards, and your cards do things to my cards. In this game, there's a lot less of that. It's more like my cards do things for me, and they do damage to you.
Right.
And that's about it. And that's very common among deck builders there. Less interactive. It's more about your own personal game. That's why the majority of deck builders, I think, are very good multiplayer games, because you're not, with the exception of this one, where you eliminate a player. You're not eliminating a player. You're playing for a point total, and I take my turn and I do this stuff. It doesn't have a lot of effect on what you're going to do on your turn, other than we're racing.
And I agree. I think, like, just to preface that, as a game like Clank, right, is a great deck builder. That's a great multiplayer deck builder, right?
Absolutely. That game is like Deck Builder Plus,
right? Exactly.
It has that deck builder element, and then it has that board game element.
Right.
This deck builder element fuels all that, and that game feels very competitive.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, this game, while it can be played in 4 players, I'm agreeing with you. We did play one multiplayer game together. I do think that it suffers in multiplayer with the way the mechanisms work, because it kind of has a little bit of a king of a hill type feel of, like, if the team thinks that you're ahead, like if you've made better drafting decisions and you're just ahead in terms of either whether that's mastery or dealing damage, like your deck's more efficient at dealing damage or more efficient at gathering resources, like, and the other players tend to want to team up on you at that point.
Yeah, so in any deck builder, when you're playing multiplayer, it becomes very clear who's winning.
Right.
Winning, like, where everybody sees the pool of cards that are available, and unless you're playing somebody brand new, or you're like the skill level between the two players is a huge gap, because it's not really that hard to understand.
Right.
So unless you're like a very veteran player, bringing in a new player and just like out there to just crush them,
right?
Everybody's gonna know like the value of the cards that are available. So if one person is buying up all the powerful cards and hitting good hits that come out because the cards that are available are from a random pile, it's very possible for one person to get way ahead where your deck gets better, that accelerates it, gives you the ability to buy the more powerful cards before the other players, and it becomes very obvious, like, oh, that person's way ahead. So in Ascension or other deck builders, it's not as big of a deal because they're not actively like killing you,
right?
So
you're still in the game till the end,
right? You're doing the best you can,
right?
But in this game where you have a life total, and you got 3 players on the table, and your deck is really good, and both the other players know it, like, is your deck twice as good as one of them because you're just getting shot twice as much as...
Correct. And I agree with that statement. Like, it, removing my experience specifically, because I was the guy that got teamed up on, I managed to get very lucky in drawing choosing a bunch of cards that helped me, like, essentially combo through my deck really fast. And I nearly won. I mean, to be fair...
You would have won the turn... Like, if you had gotten another
turn...
All
the way around to my turn, I would have won. But instead, everybody knew that I was really close to winning the game. And so they made the conscious choice to eliminate me. And the game then went on for some number of turns. I think it was 3 or 4 additional times around the table before we finally had a winner. And that's not a really long time. So to be fair, like, it's not bad. Like, some player elimination is bad where it's like, oh, you're eliminated, and now you must sit for like 2 hours.
If you're playing Monopoly and you're the first person out, you like go back to get more turkey at Thanksgiving or whatever you're doing,
right.
And while your family continues to play for 6 hours.
Right, and then you're like, oh, I guess the Lions and Cowboys are playing, so let's watch that game, right?
To be clear, I think this is a fine multiplayer game.
Sure.
I just think compared to Ascension, which is the easiest comparison in the world because they're so similar, same company, everything.
Right.
Like, Ascension is a better multiplayer game.
I would agree with that statement 100%. So if you're into deck builders or you want to try deck builders and you have a larger group of people that you want to involve, I think we're both saying Ascension is a better choice.
Yep.
If you want to play something that kind of feels like a strategy card game, can maybe even work as like a stepping stone into playing your first strategy card game if you've never played a strategy card game, I think this game works really well at doing that. And if you're a fan of strategy card games like we are, it also does a really nice job of like kind of giving us a quick strategy card game, right? Like where
it lacks in the multiplayer, I think this is the best 2-player deck builder that exists.
That's a bold statement. That's a really bold statement.
And I've played a lot of them.
Sure. So let's break down some of the components that are in this game. Let's talk about what's inside it, what you're going to get when you buy the game, and then let's explain some of the stuff on the character cards and some of those other things. So to start, we get 4 characters out of the base game. So we've got Decima here, which I don't remember all of the faction names. It's Homodius, I think.
Yep.
And then we have Volos, who is the undergrowth people. What are they called? I think they are called undergrowth. Man,
Yep,
I'm doing a good job of just remembering these off the fly, aren't I? And then we have Order, which is the blue. And then the final color is the Wraith.
Wraith.
Yep. And that's the purple. So, Kosi, there's no functional difference between these 4 champions, right?
The champion card is purely for looks. They all function the exact same for game mechanics. They all have a health total dial up here.
And we start the game with 50. So when we start playing, the health dial goes to 50, and then of course we back it all the way down until we get to 0, and that's when you lose the game. And then the next part of it?
Yep. At the bottom here, they have a mastery dial. Mastery is a pretty unique concept to this game, especially in the world of deck builders, where you start at 0 or possibly more depending on the number of players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And this ticks upward. And it's a threshold resource where, as you gain mastery, there are some cards in the game that gain additional effects based on you having X amount of mastery. So it'll say, like, at 10 mastery, this does this extra thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things become very powerful. And one of them is a very common win condition in the game that's actually a card in your starter deck that we'll talk about when we...
Yeah. So we'll break down the starter decks in just a second. But we have... Each one of these has an ability that's called a focus ability. And so... I forget what they call it. I think they call it activate. But basically, you rotate your character card 90 degrees, and when you do that, you pay 1 resource in the game. I guess they call it exhaust. And then you gain a mastery point.
Right.
And so there's other ways to gain mastery, but that's the most common way. So you just start ticking up your mastery until you get to that proverbial 30.
At the cost of 1 resource per turn, you can gain 1 mastery per turn. And it's not always great to do that. If you have an extra resource, you should always do that. But the significance of, like, tapping the champion is just to show that you can't do it more than 1 time per turn.
Exactly. So you can't pump like 10 resources in and get 10 mastery in an individual turn. So this is a really kind of a slow way to build mastery. It's not the ideal way, but sometimes you just have that spare resource in deck builders, and you can't buy anything with it, and this is kind of their out for how to utilize that spare resource.
It's very similar to a mechanic from one of the more recent Ascension sets from, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, where they had starter champions, and they had like levels, and you would pay 1 to level them up.
You're
a turn.
You're right, and so I'm actually gathering the starter cards right now so that we can start talking about those, because one of the things I want to try to get to is getting into playing the game more this week. Like last week, I think we spent a lot of time talking about the game. Yeah, and I want to definitely get you guys all to the action of what the game is and how it plays sooner rather than later. So we're just going to break down the starter cards here. I'm looking for the blaster. There it is. So there's 4 starter cards to start the game. We'll end up with 10 of these in total, right? So I think we end up with 2 blasters. Is that correct? I'd have to go back and double check that part.
I think it's just 1.
1 blaster. That's right. And then you end up with the Infinity Shard, the Shard Reactor, and then 7 crystals, right? Yep. Okay. So a couple of things. The Shard Reactor, the crystal and the Shard Reactor are both resource producers in this game. So that means that when you play those, you're going to gather these crystal resources. And those crystal resources are going to be used to be able to buy cards. So the card on the upper right-hand corner of every card, there's a cost associated to that. And that cost is what we're going to pay to be able to play this. So in the case of this reactor drone, it costs us 3 to put it into the deck. However, there are some other cards in the game. They might be hard to see on camera, but they're bordered by this little red border symbol, and they show mercenary on it. Mm-hmm. And we can spend that cost to use that mercenary card right away. But the downside to that is it doesn't go to our deck, right? So like normally when we buy cards, they end up in our deck eventually. In that case, they are returned to the bottom of like the trade row cards that haven't come up into the trade row yet. So,
and that mechanic is, I think, the best mechanic that this game adds to deck builders.
Right.
Where there's a lot of cards in deck builders, if you played them a number of times, that just aren't very good compared to other cards in deck builders. So what happens in these ones, especially the ones that have a random trade row like this in Ascension, the trade row will get all clogged up with these bad cards because nobody wants to buy them. Like, I don't want to buy a bad card, flip something, and let you have an opportunity at something that's really good.
Right.
This mercenary mechanic, where they have the red border, like Jesse was saying, does something to make that more enticing to do. Because, again, like the mastery thing, there are turns where you're going to have crystals that you don't want to spend.
Right.
Like, or you can't spend because it's too expensive.
Right.
But if there's... I know there's a card in the pile that just gains 3 health.
Right.
Which is a card that I don't want in my deck. Like, gain 3 health is a fine power, but as a... just that's the only thing it does as a card in my hand. I don't want that in my deck.
Right.
But it's a mercenary like this. It has a red border, and there's going to be a time when I have some extra crystals, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't have anything better to do. And normally I would just leave this gain 3 health in the row so that nothing new comes up and you can't get me or whatever.
Right.
But when I actually get to do the power and not junk up my deck with it, I'm much more apt to spend my crystals doing that than...
Absolutely. Yeah, so definitely. So we understand, like, now we talked a little bit about how resources allow us to acquire better cards for our deck, and in some cases acquire a mercenary for just an individual turn that we're taking.
A one-shot ability.
We could still buy these mercenaries like a normal card if we choose. So that's always cool too. So some of the mercenaries, maybe with what you're trying to draft, they are better in your deck than just as a one-time use. But that's some of the decision points that come into the game. Now we have attack, which is essentially kind of like a resource in deck builders, right? Like attack and purchasing power, kind of your 2 resources in a deck builder. So we have the blaster, and that's just going to give us a flat 1 attack. And then we have the Infinity Shard. And the Infinity Shard and the Shard Reactor do some special stuff, and we're going to talk about that right after this. But the Infinity Shard also gives you 2 attacks. So these serve as our starting attack power. So our starting deck only has 3 attack power. That's not very... I mean, we're not going to win a game off 3 attack power, obviously, right? Like, when we got to do 50 damage to each other, 3... It's just... we're going to be playing for a long time. But the Shard Reactor and the Infinity Shard, they grow in strength as we improve our mastery. And so you can see on the cards, like the Infinity Shard says 10, 20, and 30. That's the threshold values that are met. As soon as we have 10 mastery, as soon as we have 20 mastery, and as soon as we have 30 mastery, we get increases in attack power. And this is where this is a unique mechanic, and maybe somebody's going to call me out on that, but it changes the value of a card based upon that mastery component and whether or not you buy into that mastery component. So when we hit 10 mastery, this Infinity Shard goes from doing 2 damage to 3, and then at 20 it does 5 damage, and then at 30 it does infinity.
Yep, it is the Infinity Shard.
Infinity Shard, exactly.
It ends the game real quick.
There is no way to stop infinity damage. So the Shard Reactor, on the other hand, when we hit 5 mastery, which is a lot more obtainable, it turns into a 3 crystal producer, and then at 15 it turns into a 4 crystal producer.
Right. Most games I have found, just you get up to like 5 mastery, and then you're less incentivized to go bigger unless you're really trying to Infinity Shard your opponent out.
Right.
But hitting the 5 mastery for making your Shard Reactor produce 3 is a big deal.
Right.
15 is difficult.
Yep.
Like, you're really trying to hit 15.
Yep.
And it's not unattainable at all. I mean, you could easily do it if you were focusing on it, but there's not a lot of payoff to like the 4th resource out of your Shard Reactor.
I mean, I definitely don't think you're going for it as a plan, right? Like you're going, if you end up in a situation where the trade cards you end up buying are building mastery for you, then you're inherently getting just some extra value out of that. And
the Shard Reactor victory the Infinity Shard victory is very real. Like, that's a win condition.
Yeah.
Like, you were talking about that multiplayer game that we played. Like, you were going to hit 30 and you're going to kill us.
Yep. Because I go infinity on everybody at that point.
Right. You get to divide up your
damage.
Like you said, it's like a resource, so you get X amount of damage.
Right.
And you get to divide it however you want between players and between the other kind of card we haven't shown yet.
The champion.
The champion.
Yep. So I'm going to find a champion really quick. We're going to talk about the champion because it's not a super unique thing, but it is kind of unique.
The way that it interacts with damage is unique. The card type itself is not different than things that exist in other deck builders.
So there we've got, I think it's Draconarius.
Yeah.
And he's a Homodius champion, and he's got 2 health on him. So that means that my opponent, I believe, if I'm remembering the rules correctly, they have to attack this, right? Is that correct?
You can spend your damage to damage champions.
Okay.
And if you are able to do the total amount of health of the champion, it dies and goes to your discard pile.
Right.
Otherwise, they stay in play, which is unique because all these other cards we've shown so far, you play them once, at the end of your turn they get discarded and shuffled back as you continue to play the game. The champions don't. They will stay in play for as long as your opponent doesn't kill it.
Right. Yep, exactly. And there's some synergies and other things with champions that make them unique and capable of...
For the most part, one activation of a champion is not better than any other card. It's usually worse.
Right.
But if you ever get the second activation out of it, if it stays in play, then you're doing better than a regular card.
That's right.
In Ascension, they had constructs, which were cards that stayed in play, and there were some things that interacted with them to remove them from play, but not a lot of things.
Right.
And so they became very powerful in most of the Ascension sets to have those because it's adding value for you, but it's not a card in your deck. So this game kind of fixes that with the idea of the champions being able to be killed by the damage.
Right. So I believe we get 7 crystals.
It's these 3 and 7. The one last thing that we should point out, I'm going to steal some of these from you.
Sure.
The other mechanic of damage is that there are some cards that block damage. Now, you're not allowed to block damage for a champion, but you can block damage for yourself.
Okay.
And they have a symbol on the side of them like this with the shield.
The shield symbol.
So, if I have this in my hand, when Jesse tries to do damage to me, I can reduce up to 5 damage with this.
That's right.
You don't discard it, you just reveal it, so it's just all value to have that. Because if Jesse has 5 damage, like that's almost a valuable whole card, and I'm just turning it off.
That's right.
Showing you this,
and it forces essentially in that scenario you have to do 10 damage, right, just to kill that champion, because it's 5 damage.
No, when he's in play, he just has 5 life. This is only from your hand.
That's right. You have to play it from your hand. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Again, you've played the game much more than me, so and it's been a little while since I've played. I think you've got 10 there. Make sure you do. So we start the game by taking the 10 starting cards, which are the 7 crystals, the blaster, the infinity shard, and the shard reactor, and we shuffle those up. And so this becomes our starting deck, is what this is called. We now need to select champions. Again, there's no difference in champions. Do you have a preference on which champion?
No,
I don't either. So I'm just going to take Decima. You can have Volos. I just want to make a comment quickly here. Like, the art in this game is fantastic. They have done an amazing job. Stoneblade always does an awesome job of putting together excellent quality artwork games, and Shards of Infinity is no exception to that rule for them. So, kudos Justin and Stoneblade team for another high quality game.
Yeah, absolutely. Ascension has a very unique art style, and throughout the many expansions that they've put out, the more recent ones look a lot more like this. But the first few of them were all hand-drawns, and it worked. It was cool. These are a little different than that, but they, like you said, they do a great job at Stoneblade, and
right. So
the game is very visually appealing.
That's right. So, I mean, definitely something to consider. If you like games that are very pretty, then you're definitely not going to be disappointed in this game from that perspective.
And if you like sci-fi and comic books. And
by the way, guess what? We do.
We do.
So I think this hit on a lot of points for us from a deck builder perspective, where we were like, oh well, we better try this game out, right? And I don't remember what it cost at MSRP. I think it was like $30 or something.
I think it was $29.99 when I bought it.
Yeah, I think that's about right. But again, I don't obviously, I think that's just the suggested retail price. I don't know for sure.
And that's for me, that's a really good value. This game doesn't have a lot of fluff with it.
Right.
The Ascension expansions are all $50 or $40.
Yep.
But they have like a board and a bunch of crystals and trackers and stuff.
Right.
And I don't I don't buy into that as much. I know that that's a thing that a lot of people enjoy and take away.
Yeah,
So,
if you want more stuff for it, you're gonna probably be left a little disappointed in that respect.
yeah, this is just a box of cards.
Yep, and the character cards.
Oh,
with
and
the dual dials.
and the dials.
So the board layout, like the board layout, is going to consist of this what we call the trade pile. I'm not sure what they literally call it, but we call it a trade pile. And so we're going to put cards out into the center. That's going to be the buying row. And that's where we're going to buy things to add to our deck. Now we have our deck pile, which is just the cards we're going to draw from. And then to the side of the deck pile, there should be a discard pile. And so after we've played our turn, the cards are going to go to the discard. We set our dials on our character cards to 50 and mastery 0.
We should decide who goes first, because whoever goes second gets a mastery.
That's true. That's true.
In a multiplayer game, if you're playing more than just 2 people, you get mastery as you go around the table. So if I went first, Jesse would get 1.
Okay.
X player 3 would get 2.
Should we rock, paper, scissors for it, Neil?
If you want.
Let's rock, paper, scissors for it. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh. Is it shoot or?
Oh, I guess we can go 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, shoot. All right, you got it.
Nothing beats rock.
Nothing beats rock. Nothing. Paper beats rock.
If there's one thing that I've learned in all the games that I've played, it's that nothing beats rock.
So I get a mastery because I'm going to go second. So I start with 1 mastery to your 0. So we're ready to start playing. That's as quick as it's set up. Like, we're set it up right here while we were talking about it. Maybe took us 2 or 3 minutes, and we were spending time talking about it. So we're gonna flip up the mastery row. Yeah, we'll turn them towards the camera so everybody can kind of see the buying. You get 6 cards in the buying row. So we've got 6 different choices here. I'm not going to go through each one of these while we're teaching or talking about this game today, because what we'll do is when we buy the card and we play it, we'll discuss what it does at that point. I think that's a better way to approach it. Like last week, we kind of, as we were playing cards, talked about the cards, buying from the row. Like I'm not going to lay out and spend time talking to you about what all the new cards are and what they do. That's kind of some of the fun of the game. So, but we got Wreath pretty heavy. That's the purple faction.
Yep, and they, as a faction, they have a mechanic that if you have other purple cards in your discard pile, they tend to do more.
Right.
But I have 4 crystals.
Seems pretty good.
And 2 damage.
Okay.
So I'm going to do 2 damage to you.
I take 2, go from 50 to 48.
And I'm going to purchase this.
For 4. Okay.
Command Seer.
So when you buy a card, this is something that we can explain, but when you buy a card, as soon as the card is bought, you flip up the next card. So the benefit to that is that if you still had buying power left, you could now make a new choice to buy based off of what was now in the trade row, what was in the buying row.
Yep.
So, if you, in your case, you had 4, if you just spent 2, and then you would have the opportunity to see the next card and then spend your final 2 on something if you wanted to.
Yep, and that happens quite often later in the game where maybe you'll buy a subpar card that costs 1 just to like get a shot at another one.
Right.
And then at the end of my turn, everything in my in-play area that's not a champion goes to my discard pile.
Okay.
And I'll draw 5 cards.
Sounds good. All right, so I'm going to spend... Well, I have 1 damage to do to you, so I didn't have my big card. I've got 4 resources, so I got 4 crystals. I think... Like, fundamentally, the Primus just doesn't do much yet. So I'm gonna spend 2 on the Nil Assassin first. And that goes my discard. And then we bring up the next card, and that's another Hamodious Champion that costs 5 now. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and spend my last 2. I guess I'll pick up the Primus just because I want to spend the resources and start building towards something. So then these cards go in my discard pile, and then I draw 5 cards, which is coincidentally the last 5 cards of the deck.
And so I have 5 cards for my last turn. I have 3 crystals. And I have my Shard Reactor that right now makes 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 1 damage. So I'm going to do 1 damage to you.
Alright, I take 1, go to 47.
I'm going to spend 5 on one of my favorite cards, who also happens to be the artwork on the cover of the box. So you know he's good. On Zara.
And yeah, he's going to be a problem
really
for me. Yep.
He gains a mastery every time, and then when you have 10 mastery, he starts banishing cards.
Right.
Which is remove them from your deck completely, so that you can get rid of your bad stuff and only draw good cards.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 to you. And then I get 3, 4, 5, 6 buying power. And I just picked up the Primus from Homodius, which means that I really want to be trying to get other Homodius champions. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 5 on the Optio Crusher, which is another Homodius champion.
Yeah, that card's good. I definitely would have bought it if Zara didn't show up in the riddle.
Yep, understood. And then we bring up a new order ally here. I have 1 remaining, so this goes back to that 1 remaining we were talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and focus my champion to that. And then that will be my turn. Now, because my deck is empty, and you saw Neil doing this while I was taking my turn, but because my deck is empty, I now have to shuffle all the cards up.
Yep. And
now I bought a total of 3 cards, so instead of having a 10-card deck, I have a 13-card deck. So my deck's getting a little fatter, which means it's in theory getting a little worse, but it's also getting better because I put better cards in it.
Right. So now that you've shuffled once, you have access to those better cards that you bought. On my first shuffle, I did not buy them, but because I'm great, I did get to make 6.
Wow.
Very skillful.
Yep.
I'm going to buy this guy, who's awesome.
Yep.
Drawing additional cards of any type is essentially all you want to do in these games. So.
Yep. And so that's going to bring out a new. We got a ton of Wreath. Who shuffled this deck?
I did. I did it on camera.
He's cheating already. But
yeah, somebody go back and look at the video and make sure that I wasn't like palming the.
All right, so a couple of things. You know, like we were talking about, we've always talked about we always have our team #teamNeil going on. So you know,
yep.
feel
Only
free.
teamNeil. You can forget about all the other teams.
No. TeamJesse is the way to go. You're always going to be okay with TeamJesse. So
we did tie last week, which was very awkward.
Well, I'm going to play the Primus. He's got 6 health. He seems pretty good to sit out there. I make 3 resources this turn, and then I'm going to do 5 damage with the Nil Assassin.
Okay, so you have 5 damage. I have 5 block.
Okay.
With my Command Seer.
Nice.
Which I will reveal to you to block your damage.
Okay, so I'm gonna collect 3 here, and with those 3, I think I'm gonna try the Wreath Skirmisher for 1. Oh, now I wish I would have had the 3 back. That seems pretty good. Data Heretics are pretty awesome.
That card is great.
And I guess my last 2, I'll buy the Nil Assassin since we're going on this. Seem to be going on this Wreath strategy here.
There, see, you get a shot at a.
You get a shot at a
both.
champion, yeah.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. You made 6 last turn. You could maybe buy them.
That's true. It would be difficult. I'm gonna play the Zara.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get a mastery.
Okay. And I take 4.
I have 5 damage, which the thing has 6 health, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do 5 to you because I can't kill the other thing.
So I go to 42.
Then I'm gonna make 2 crystals and 2 other crystals from the Command Seer for 4.
Yep.
I'm gonna use my focus to go up a mastery.
Yep.
I'm gonna purchase a Data Heretic.
Sounds good.
That was a good turn for me.
Right. Alright, so I get 5 new cards.
The one difference this turn will be that I'm going to draw these last 2 cards and then shuffle. You always have to, when you would have to interact with the top card of your deck, then you shuffle your, so if there's any odd numbers that don't add up to 5, you'll draw off as much as you can and then shuffle and draw.
Alright, I got 3 there. I'm going to do a total of 3 to you.
Okay.
So we'll see what you have. Make sure you can't
Let me see
shield.
if I draw that
Yep.
block.
But while you're doing the 3, I'm definitely buying a Data Heretic. I think we knew that was coming.
And I did draw the Command Seer, so I'm going to block.
Okay. So far, the damage strategy has not materialized for me yet.
Alright, what did we hit? So, I have 2 damage from my enemy card.
Okay.
And 5 total crystals.
Okay.
Of which I will buy. I'm gonna buy this Shadebound Sentry.
Okay.
And he returns a mercenary from your discard pile to your hand. So,
Okay.
because I have that Data Heretic, he's going to be some value.
Yeah. No, that's definitely cool. Okay. So, I'm going to play good old Opto Crusher.
He's good. He's going to do damage to me.
Yep. And then I'm going to draw 2 cards. I'm going to do 5. I have to exhaust him for that 3. So there's 3. There's 5. That's 8, 10.
Okay. I have no blocks this time. I'm going to go to 37.
All right. And then I've got 1, 3, 4 buying power. I think the Shadow Apostle looks pretty good here for 2. And then I can't buy anything else, so I'll just do the Mastery. I could buy the Order Initiate. I still could. I'm going to do that, I think.
Okay.
So Order Initiate has Dominion. Dominion is kind of a hard ability to pull off, at least in the current versions of the game. But maybe it'll get better.
Okay. So, on my turn, I have a Data Heretic. I'm going to draw 2.
Okay.
I have a Omnius. I'm going to draw 2.
Okay.
Whoops. I have a Zara to get a Mastery.
Okay.
I make 4 damage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make 5 damage.
Okay.
And I'm going to do 4 to your Crusher and 1 to you.
Okay.
And then I'm going to make 6
Resources.
crystals.
Yep.
This might be... Yeah, I think I just want to play this. I had the option to, like, to mercenary this guy and then play the Shard Reactor for additional value, but I don't think I want to spend that much anyway because I'm just going to power up and be done.
Yeah, it makes sense. My hand's a little lackluster after that last turn, but that makes sense. It's 3, 4, 5 resources.
It's pretty good here. Like, you can buy anything you want.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what I want to buy, though. That's the question.
Yeah, these cards are... They're okay.
You know, the deck is not super high value in terms of... I think I'm just going to buy this guy. Cause
Straight up or mercenary style?
straight up, I think.
Okay.
And then we'll flip that up. I have 2 remaining, but nothing I can buy for the 2. So I'm going to charge the Mastery.
Okay. So now I'm punished because I drew a Data Heretic.
Mm-hmm. How's that punishing?
Well, the Data Heretic is not punishing. I drew the Omnius, which is also good.
Yeah.
But I drew this Shadebound Sentry that I wanted to draw after drawing these because he returns a missionary from my discard pile and I don't have any, so he's just 3 damage.
Okay.
I have a Falcatul, who I will get 2 damage out of. So I have 7 total damage. I'm going to shoot down your champ there and do the additional 1 to you.
Okay.
Sorry, 2 to you. I have a blaster too.
39.
And then I have $4.
$4.
I want to buy this guy. He's cool. Ohas, Genesis Druid.
Okay. So, unfortunately, like, I kind of just missed this turn a little bit. Like, that could have been pretty good for me. But that's how this game works sometimes. So, I've got 1, 2, 3, 8, 10 to you.
Okay. I mean, you're killing me pretty fast.
And I only have 1 crystal, so all I can do is just get my Mastery to 5. And I don't think that matters because I didn't get the Reactor Shard to get extra crystal buying power this turn. So.
But your next reactor will be good.
Yep.
Okay, so I got the Zara to pump my Mastery. And I got $4.
Not a lot to buy for $4.
Nope. So 6 total this turn with this guy.
Okay.
To you.
33. I probably should have killed him last turn, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's only okay right now. If I actually get the mastery up to 20, then he starts going off. But
right.
I'm just gonna focus. I don't really like any of these cards.
Okay. Well,
So that was kind of a wasted turn, but
I'm gonna draw 2 for my Data Heretic. Oh, that worked out really well. Okay, so I'm gonna play the Optio Crusher. So I'm gonna exhaust him for 3 attack, 8 attack, 10 attack. I'm gonna banish a card. So we hadn't seen this up to this point, but banishing a card is kind of cool because it allows me to essentially start taking away some of the cards that are less meaningful to me. So I'm gonna take the Blaster away because I've got plenty of attack in my deck right now. It takes it out of the game. So I'm going to do a total of, let's see, 3, 8, and 2 is 10. I think I'm going to go ahead and kill that champ for 4 and then do 6 to you.
I'll go to 21.
And then I have 3 to buy. I have some champions, so I think the Corvus Legionnaire is pretty good for me. Just because like I can return champs. And he's got the 2 shield, which is nice added value for my hand. And that's my turn.
So I'm going to put Data Heretic. Put a card here.
That's a good one.
And again, I draw the Shadebound with nothing to return because I'm great. So here is 6 damage. I'll do 4 and 2.
Okay. Third one.
My reactor makes 3 this time because I have the mastery for 5.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy this for an element.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yep, I gotta slow down that clock you got on me so I can start reaping the rewards of my better cards.
No, understood. Alright, so I'm going to gain a mastery. That's going to take me to 6. Sorry, my guy is reset. Then I got gain 2. So I get 2, 3, 4, 7.
Yeah, the turn I draw my block, you just didn't even damage me.
No, sorry about that. 7's a tough question here. You know, I don't have a ton of Undergrowth allies, so that Adidary, I can't even say his name, it doesn't work too well for me. I do have some Wraiths, but that Scion's kind of hard to get that to go off. You and other champions in play. Man, that's pretty good right there. That Zelta.
It's good if you have other champions to protect with it.
Which I do. I have some.
He's a good block.
I made 7, right? So I think I'm going to buy this for 3 because that's 3 resources. It allows me to start filtering the crystals out of my deck. And that seems pretty good too.
That card is good.
And then I have 1 left over, so we'll charge Mastery and go to 7. So I'm working my way up to that 10 threshold, which matters for that.
I'm going to draw 2.
For a lot of the other cards in my deck that care about Mastery. Like the Undergrowth guy I just bought has extra value for being at 10 Mastery. So
I'm going to spend 5 on this guy.
Yeah.
I need the blocks now. I have 1 to pump into this, go to 7.
Okay.
And then this guy that does 4 to you and gives me an additional 1.
I take 4, go from 31 to 27. Okay. This seems to be recurring. I just can't get the Wreath Skirmisher to work out the way I want it to. So I'm going to do 7 to you.
Okay, let's see if I draw a block here.
Yep.
I did not.
Okay. I make 3. I think we're just going to keep the plan going for banishing. Like keep filtering the deck down. works out for me. That doesn't allow me. He cost me 3, so yeah, I can't do any pumps there. And then I get 5 new cards, and it's your turn.
Okay. So I'm gonna pay 1 to go to 9.
Okay.
I'm gonna play my Zara to go to 10.
Yep.
And get the powered up version of him.
Yep.
I'm gonna
What's the powered up version do?
banish up to 2 cards from your hand or discard pile.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty
I'm
good.
just gonna eat these crystals.
Okay.
They're dead. And then I'll copy him. So I
Okay.
get another mastery and some more damage. So 8 total damage.
Go to 19.
I have nothing to banish with the second copy.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to gain 1. Go to 8. Okay. So 3, 4 buying power.
Mm-hmm.
I'll gain 3 attack. I'll do 5 attack to you because you have no champions.
I
in
got a
play.
block.
Okay. 4. This is a tricky buy. Like,
Yeah, this row, this is what we were talking about before, where like the row is kind of clogged up with stuff that's just, it's not great.
right.
And
I'm going to buy the aspirin for 1. At least 2 left. We'll see what comes up here. That seems pretty good because I'm very near 10. So,
that card is sweet.
yep. And that will do it.
Data Heretic.
Brought you up a heretic, though. Oh, I got to banish a card. I'm sorry. I'm going to banish a crystal.
So I'm gonna play an Omnius and draw a couple cards.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the blocker guy and this Falcatul.
Okay.
I make 4.
Okay.
So with the 4, I'm gonna pay 1 to focus. I'll pay 3 to get a Data Heretic.
Okay.
And then I have 2 from this and 3 from this because I'm over 10, so 5.
5?
And
Cool.
I'll do 4 and 1.
All right, go to 18. So do you, I wonder on Dominion, does the champions count? Because it says Dominion has to be played this turn or revealed from your hand. Does the champion count as being played this turn because it's in play? I've always wondered that about Dominion.
I don't think it's when it's in, if it's just in play. I think you have to have
Played with that turn,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So Dominion is
Says,
such a hard
if you
ability
have
to
played
trigger.
and or reveal from your hand. Yeah,
So we're going to go 2, 3, 4. We will spend 1 on this. And that leaves 3 remaining. Can't buy the Cyber Fist Monk, so
another Cyber Fist.
I'll focus up to 9. And then I'll go to 10. And I'll banish a card. So we'll banish a crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, I'm just trying to get my deck filtered down, and then I'm going to do 5 to your...
You have to do it to this
that
guy.
guy,
I can
yep.
see.
Yep.
Oh, whoops! I don't get to draw yet. I have to play a State Heretic first, then I can draw those cards. And finally, the Shadebound pays off, where I get to return a
Yeah.
Omnius, because he's a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
Still a Homodius ally short of actually doing the Dominion thing like you were talking about. I'm going to gain 4 health
Okay.
and draw a card.
All right.
So I'm going to shuffle in the middle of my turn, since I have to draw right now.
Yep. How much life are you at?
18.
Okay, so we're 18 and 18. We're really pretty even here. I think that your deck has a better draw engine, so that's probably going to put it over the top at the end of this game. But
I'm starting to go off now because I'm doing a lot of things. Alright, so I'm going to spend a crystal.
Okay.
Focus, go to 14.
Yep.
I'm going to play a Zara, go to 15.
Yep.
There's the 15. And I'm going to banish. Am I going to buy anything this turn? Yeah, so I'm just going to banish my blaster.
Okay.
I'm going to make 4 of my shard reactor this turn for 5, and I'm going to buy a Data Fist Monk.
Okay, seems pretty good.
I'm going to make 3 from this, so 7, 9 to you. Oh, sorry, 12 to you.
And go to 6. Okay. So I'm going to do a Data Heretic. Draw the 1, then shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle.
Yeah.
I'm going to draw 1 more after done shuffling.
Cyber Fist Monk is one of my favorite cards.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's not a card in your deck because it replaces itself, and it blocks like crazy.
Okay, so you gain 3, 4, 5. I should have blocked 2. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I had to block 2 there. So 5, and then I do this guy again. If you have 3 or more Harmonious Champions in play, draw 2 cards, and then we'll go 5 damage to you. Let's do 4 because you're getting close to that 20, aren't you?
I'm at 15.
Yeah, let's do 4 there.
And 1 to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I have 5 buying power. And I think I'm going to buy my own Crypto Fist Monk there. Seems pretty good.
It is a good card. What does this card do? Oh, that card's good.
That card is excellent.
Alright, so I'm going to play a Data Heretic.
Okay.
And I'm going to draw 2 cards. And then I'm going to play the Ohas and copy my Data Heretic.
Okay.
I'm going to draw 2 more cards.
Okay.
I'll play another Data Heretic.
Yep.
I'm going to play the Omnius.
Yep.
I'm going to play a Crypto Fist. I have a champion. None of these made me any resources. I have the Valve Tool.
Okay.
And I have 4 6 10 crystal, oh sorry, 9 crystals, 10 crystals.
Okay.
I will focus 1, go to 9. I spend 3 on this guy. I will spend 2 on this guy, leaving 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that guy's cool. And I will spend 3 on this guy.
Okay.
And then I have a total of, not quite to 20 yet to turn on the Valve Tool, but 5 to you, because I can't finish off your...
Okay. 3. All right. Oops. Of course. Cannot get the wreaths to turn on, man. Like all game, that's been that way. Okay, so I'm gonna gain 3 health. Takes me to 6.
All right.
I'm going to gain 3 crystals. Gain 1 mastery, go to 11, banish a card. So we'll banish a crystal. 2 attack.
I got the guy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So you gotta do 5 total to kill him.
It's not going to get there this turn. And then I gain another 2, so I have 5, but I gain Dominion. So I got the Dominion.
Some mastery.
Got some mastery. Yeah, from the Order Initiate. So I have 5 to buy with. I think I better start trying to gain some health. I'm going to spend 2 just to gain.
Yep, the
4.
mercenary.
Mercenary.
That's the guy I was talking about at the beginning of the cast, was this just gain life guy. Generic guy that I wouldn't want in my deck.
So I think I'm going to also do it again for the final 3 here.
Okay.
And I'm going to gain a total of 6 attack here. So I get 6, plus now this unifies for another 5. So it's 11, 13 in total. And I have to hit your
You have to hit 5 into this.
So I put 5 into that. And then, what are you at for mastery?
I'm at 16 mastery. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to do 3 to you next turn. Or you're at more now, I guess.
I'm at 10 now, yeah.
Okay. But maybe killing this guy is good if you're at 10.
I have 8 remaining on. You're at how much? 16?
Yep.
I feel like I should just do the 8 to you, because I don't think you can get to 20 mastery to like really push that over the top. And I don't know, maybe you can do 8 to me. We'll find out, I guess. But it's kind of, I feel like if I don't try to knock you down, like I don't have a shot at like doing something like that in a future turn.
I'm going to gain 4 and draw a card.
Okay.
This guy misses because I don't have a mercenary. This guy hits. So I gain 1 mastery.
Okay.
I can't get to 20. You were right about that.
Can you kill me?
I think so. So I have 5 or 6. Plus here's 7, 9, and then I can mercenary this guy to finish you off.
To 12. Okay. Yeah, because I was 1 turn away too. This next turn I would have had enough to buy that, and I had 1. I think I had 2 wraiths, maybe just 1, but it'd have been 5 attack, and then I had another 5 attack from the Opto Crusher. So I think I had enough to get you on the next turn. But yep. So that's a game of Shards of Infinity. I don't. It looks like you split. We're not going to probably play another one out here. We're pushing, I think, right at about the hour timeline, pretty close to it.
Okay.
So
the important thing is that I won.
Yeah. So you now are in terms of games played, you broke the tie today. Neil has won 2 games to my 1 across the Punch It Plays episodes now. So let's talk a little bit about, like we did last week, we're going to rate the game, talk about 1 pro, 1 con to that game. I had you start last week. I'm going to start this week if you don't mind. So I rate this game out of 5 stars. I rate this game about a 3.5. Okay. I like a lot of the elements of it. I think that does some unique things, but I'm not sure it does enough to push beyond other deck builders I already had in my collection. By that, I mean Star Realms, for example.
Yep.
I like playing the game of Star Realms. I think that it's an excellent representation of a 2-player deck builder. It has a very similar, deal damage to each other.
It's very similar to this.
Right. And so I think that Star Realms does things just a little bit better when it comes to the going off turns where you have like faction drafting, where you draft yellow and you just get a bunch of stuff, or if you draft green you get more attack, or some of those other things. And I think it's just because I played more Star Realms, and some of that is attributed to the app. So
right.
The app helps me play more Star Realms, so I feel more comfortable with the game. But I also like I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit more tighter card selection process in Star Realms in this game. Perfect example of that is for a 1 resource. I had the guy that if I had a Wreath guy in my discard pile that went from a 2 attack to a 5 attack, right?
Yep.
Seems like that would be something that when you get to a deck of this size, and I don't know where we were at, but somewhere around that 20, probably 25 cards, we were both banishing some cards. I had banished 4 cards up to that point. And
yeah, I had a deck of 21 cards at the end of the game after having banished some of the starters.
I was at 23, so we were pretty close in terms of deck efficiency. And I had in that deck 23 cards. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 of that, so almost 25%, not quite, about 20% of the deck was Wreath already. And I would have liked to have bought more Wreath to make it work, but it's hard to do that because you also need some of the draw engine components. Like you obviously went very heavy blue to the draw engine components. And so some of that was timing and resource collection, like the early turn where you got the 6 cost champion, that's a huge
that
blowout.
hand was like a very big turning point in the game because the chance of me making 6 at that juncture was very low. So that was a low percentage play. But once you have one of the draw 2s, it becomes way easy to.
That's right. So like
do whatever you want.
That ability for you to kind of continue to cycle the deck made it very hard for me to have any kind of real opportunity to come back. And obviously, I love the mercenary part of this game. So one of my pros is the mercenary part of this game. The infinity part of it is an interesting twist, but I'm not sure as of right now there's strategies that exist that make it consistent enough to be a viable path to victory.
Yeah, you really have to get lucky on some of the things. Like Cash Warden is good at doing it because it always makes one. It's cheap to buy, so you can get it at the beginning of the game. Yep. Obviously, the longer you have a card like this, the more value it gives you over time. But one thing that this game suffers from that like Star Realms doesn't or Ascension doesn't or anything is that it's one set. It's a small card pool, and like the base set of Ascension has roughly 10 unique cards for each color. Right. And the factions in Ascension are almost identical to this. They have blue, purple, green, and it's like white instead of blue and gray instead of whatever this color is. But and they do very similar things where like they draw the order team like draws cards. The purple team is attacking cards. The green team is you don't have a life total in the game, so it's just like straight victory points. Right. Which I think is a dynamic that the green team in this really is more interesting than the one from Ascension. But overall, like with only 10-ish unique cards of each kind, all those synergies you're talking about, they exist in this game, but how much? Right. They're just like this deck that I built looks very similar to every deck I try to draft when I play this game. Right. Because Data Heretic is the best card. It costs 3 and it just accelerates you like crazy. Right. And Zara is really good. These are cards that I like to draft and out of this set. And the next set's coming out very soon. Yeah. In fact, they started selling it at Essen. So like right now while we're recording this, Essen's going on. They started selling it at Essen. I saw that Stoneblade announced they sold out at Essen, so that's awesome. Good for them. Obviously, I think the future is very bright for this game. So when I rate this as a 3.5, I'm just rating this on just this set. So to be clear, I have every intention, like a 3.5 rating isn't a bad rating. I want everybody to be clear, like that's watching us today. 3.5 is a good rating. It just means that to me, if I was sitting down at a local game store or I was going out to play board games with my friends, I'd probably put this in my bag as a good filler game, right? Oh yeah. And I would say, you know what, if we can't agree on anything else, this is the game that I want to play. Right. I take it everywhere. Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's small, it's compact, easy to set up, like all deck builders. That's the advantage of it, and it's easy to learn and play. I just think that from a competitive deck builder standpoint, I'm not sure it's the Star Realm killers that some people want it to be. Right. And I agree with that too. So I think that it's a very good deck builder, and maybe we'll do a Star Realms Punch It Plays just for the sake of comparing the two at some point. But my opinion on this is that it has some unique things that makes it very interesting and very fun. The things that make it unique aren't consistent enough to make it
over the top, meaning like to kind of push it into that upper echelon of my go-to deck builder. But I do love the game. I do enjoy the game. I would gladly play it with you anytime, of course. And so for me, it's a 3.5-star game right now. We'll see what the next set brings into the mix, and we'll recover that when it becomes more generally widely available to us, because we're not at Essen. So
yeah,
I mean, I didn't have anybody that I knew going to Essen that I was like, hey, pick that up for me. Like, I mean, Gen Con, we did that a couple. I had some stuff. I got a Transformer starter set.
Yep.
So those kinds of things are big deals, because it makes it harder for us to kind of get an early picture of what's going on there too. But I do look forward to the new set. I most likely would picking it up to add to my collection for this game. It is a game that I'll consider continuing to expand for a while, and then go from there after that. But for me, it's a solid 3.5. What about for you?
So I've been thinking about this all week since we talked about it, because last time you just like threw me under the bus here.
Right.
Well,
that's all. That's the whole point.
I knew we were gonna play this last week. And obviously I have a reasonable amount of experience with this game. So, like I said when we went into the intro, I think this is my favorite 2-player deck builder. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that everybody that plays Star Realms is going to chew me up on social media or whatever for that. Sure. And to be fair to those people, Star Realms is very good. Mm-hmm. This game, I think, I'm biased because I like Ascension so much. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a higher chance of you like going off and doing a million things in a turn in this game than there is in Star Realms.
Sure.
Star Realms being better from like a competitive standpoint, maybe, where it's less swingy. Because like the last turn of the game that I took in this game, I just like played and copied a Data Heretic. Then I played 2 more Data Heretics. I like did a bunch of stuff, and I felt real cool doing it.
Right.
And that's like a thing that I like to do. Like but it's variant. It's not like Star Realms where you get to do some of that, but not as much. And Star Realms has already solidified itself as a very popular, very good game, and they have competitive tournaments for it all over. Yeah. And it, like Ascension or like Dominion or like any of the legendaries or whatever, has a bunch of sets out.
Right.
And that's a thing that this game will have eventually.
Yep.
Like Stoneblade's not going to stop making this game.
I can see why.
It has to be like printing money now.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, obviously selling out at Essen is a huge deal. Right. So just to preface that a little bit, because for those people that haven't played Star Realms, a lot of the cards that like allow you to draw like a Data Heretic, for example, there are some of those cards that exist in that game where it's just like, every deck builder has like draw a card, but in Star Realms, it's very rare that it's a card that operates on its own, meaning like you have to have the synergy of the other, like another card of that faction to get it to trigger that ability, right? And there are some that are like, oh, draw a card, and then if you have the other faction, like, draw another card. There are those cards that exist, too. Or, like, on the yellow team, like, if you want to draw a card, you have to trash the card that does it. So, like, there's a lot of draw in Star Realms. So, to be prefaced, like, I'm not biased against the draw. It's that cards like Data Heretic are really good and require nothing to set up.
Yeah, right. It's much more variant because like when what we saw in this game was, and you commented about it, was like you like bought the thing and flipped a Heretic.
Yeah.
And because Heretic only costs 3, like your opponent's gonna buy it.
That's right.
It's very rare that you make less than 3 until the very end of the game.
Right.
Like in Ascension, this card costs 5. Like it's functionally the same.
Sure.
But in Ascension, the resource curve of the game is steeper.
Sure.
Because you always have access to a 2-resource guy that's always available. And this game, one thing that I will say for it on that level is that a lot of those deck builders have the always availables, and this doesn't. But in spite of that, it functions very well to where you can still buy everything without having like the gold from Dominion or the Mystic from Ascension or whatever, like having to show every
from
source
Legendary.
Curve.
Yep.
So a lot of design went into that, I think, because the resource curve functions very well, and just from the box.
Yeah.
That's another thing about the setup that makes it so easy, is you just like, here's a pile of cards, here's 6 of them. You don't have to like, oh, well, here's all my Mystics, and here's all my Heavy Infinities, and here's the Cultists.
Yeah.
But, so, to get back to my ratings, I think it's probably, I would rate it a 4.
Okay.
One of the things that I think it lacks that's maybe just like very decadent of me is that it doesn't have an app yet. I'm sure that it will. Ascension has an app.
Yep.
And
I'm
works
sure it's
great.
coming.
Like, I own all the Ascension sets.
Sure.
And I've played them all, I don't know, 1 time, 2 times. Like,
Sure.
the base I played a bunch of times because the app wasn't out that time.
Right.
Once it comes out on the app, that stuff sits on my shelf. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I've played 1,500 games of Ascension or whatever, like, on my phone, just...
Yeah, because it goes back to what we talked about with Sigmar last week, right? It's that I'm watching a movie or I'm watching a TV show, and I don't necessarily, I'm not really bought into that other thing. So like I'm just like cranking out a game while I'm like sitting there. I'm watching the football game, like it's kind of a slow or dull football game or something, right? So like, yeah, I think apps enable deck builders a lot.
Specifically, a game like this, that's Dominion has an app, Star Realms has an app. Like it's just become the new thing, and this will have an app eventually. So that if you ask me in 6 months when it has an app, like what my rating will be, maybe it'll be different. But that's one reason why I still play Ascension over this is because while we're talking about the accessibility of how small table spaces takes and how small bag space takes, how easy it is to set up, like it's not just on my phone, like
that's right,
ready to go.
And the reality is the base cards, I don't know what it would look like all sleeved up, but the base cards are less enough. You could probably get most of this in, I think it's 128 cards in total. So like you could take a 2-player game and grab like an Ultra Pro dual deck box, right, like that you would use from a couple of Magic decks, put it in that little Ultra Pro box, and it's going to get down to like this big by this big, right? It's just perfect.
It actually doesn't fit very well in the box it comes in sleeves.
Yeah.
Because those the dividers has in there doesn't
hold the sleeves.
Yeah. They just hold the cards. But that doesn't affect my rating.
No.
So,
yeah, I mean we're not coming from the Magic era. Like I know a lot of people will be one of those people that are like, oh, well, it doesn't have counters, or it doesn't have, like what you talked about earlier, right? It doesn't have all the little trinket things that, maybe you have in like an Ascension or something like Legendary or something like that. But I come from a place in time where, like, when we played card games, like, we had to have our own dice to track things, and we had to have, we wrote things down on pads of paper because there wasn't a spin-down die that existed yet, right? Like, so for me, like, a game having less is sometimes more. And I will say, like, in my rating, at 3.5, I didn't mention this, but I think like I said about Star Realms, I think Star Realms sometimes requires, like when you're playing in paper form, requires more mental like acumen.
That's very true.
So like you're kind of like you got to go back and relook at everything you did to make sure you got it all right, because there's so many triggers that can occur through the course of play.
Because this game has that to a certain extent with like the green guys, like if you play another green guy or the Dominion thing you're trying to set up. But on Star Realms, when you look at the card, it's not like written there like that. It's like in its little boxes that just have the symbols.
Right.
Which is a very clean, like nice looking design.
Yep.
But much harder, like if you just didn't know Star Realms, you walked up and looked at the table and see what's going on, you'd have no idea
what's going on. Yeah, I agree with that. So
but if you walked up on this game and just read Sign of Nothingness, you'd be like, oh, well, that's what it does.
Right.
And
so
I don't know
kudos on the plain English. I actually like the plain English version better. And I think that this game playing it physically requires less mental power to sort through when you're playing out your given turns. Even on a turn where you were going off, like it doesn't require a ton of mental power. If that was a Star Realms turn where you managed to put together a go-off turn like that, you'd probably have about 5 different triggers that are all playing with themselves, and you'd have to figure out, okay, well this thing triggered this, and this, so you start like kind of dividing the cards up a little bit.
And you saw me doing that even a little bit with what I was doing.
Right.
But, that's deck builders.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we definitely have covered it. I mean, I give Justin Gary and Stoneblade Entertainment kudos. This is an excellent game. It's definitely a game that will be with us all the time. So if you're interested in learning it, and you see us out and about at a convention or
this is one of those games that you and I actually both own.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have a lot of crossover because it's like not cost effective.
Well, yeah, exactly. We end up being in the same gaming groups a lot. So like at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense for us both to own a game. But this is definitely a game where we both own it because we both like it.
And and this game will cater to like I don't know as many of the heavy games like you do because I only play those with you.
Right.
Whereas like my other friends, that if you have a group of friends that aren't as big gamers, like they'll play this game. This is easy and it's fun and.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely 2 thumbs up from Neil and I in that respect. Obviously, 4 stars from you, 3.5 stars from me. That's a very high rating. Yeah. We're not saying it's a low rating. We haven't rated a 1 star. I don't know if we'll ever play a game on stream that's like or on camera that's like a game we don't really like.
Because we want to play games we like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so if you want us like tell us in the comments on social media or whatever that you want to see us play something
that we
don't
want to like. Yeah, exactly.
We'll go play. What's the World War I game that's so hard and impossible that you and John like talking
about?
Oh,
the Grizzled. Yeah,
the Grizzled.
That's a heck of a card game.
And,
I do not like the Grizzled. Like I know I'm probably going to get banned by like half of the Board Game Geek crowd for saying that, but the reality of it is like I like games that are punishing. Like I enjoy Robin Crusoe, which is a very punishing co-op game, and it's very hard to win in Robinson Crusoe. But the game is not. I mean, it's a little luck dependent, but not anywhere like the Grizzled. Like the Grizzled is just like you can try to lay out your best plans possible, and you just get annihilated.
And that's kind of the nature of co-op games in general, where they have to be hard because otherwise you just win them every time.
Yeah.
But
well, I think we've definitely covered everything. You know, we will be back next week with a different Punch It Plays video. You know, we're focusing in this show primarily on card games, but that doesn't mean that it's just specifically like expandable card games, LCGs, and deck builders, you know, and trading card games. I mean, it can be other card games. Like I mean, maybe we'll bust out Seven Wonders Duels or something, right? Like, I mean, those are card games. They're just not the traditional, like what we would consider traditional card games growing up in the Magic era, right? But we definitely have some fun stuff coming up on Punch It Plays. Probably have a little bit of Transformers TCG to show you guys all soon.
I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I've definitely read the rules. I've done a mock game amongst myself just to see how it plays. I'm pretty excited to play that game, you know, for you guys and for Neil and I to experience that game together. We'll probably bust out a little L5R, talk about it and what's going on with it. If there's other games that are not card games that you think would be interesting for Neil and I to play, we're open to that.
Yeah, just always let us know. We're here to play games. And
yeah, exactly. So I'm excited. We're gonna wrap this one up for now because we got to ship Good, Bad, the Savage out to everybody. So until next episode, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, guys.